Hello and welcome. Thank you for listening. My name is Sarah Baumert. I'm a yoga teacher, Feldenkrais practitioner, and host of the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. The Sarah B. Yoga podcast and my practice, Body Matter, is an interdisciplinary learning space where we explore the many ways that movement can help facilitate body acceptance and awareness, reduce pain and stress, regulate the nervous system, and build strength and ease. My teaching plays with the synthesis of Feldenkrais awareness through movement lessons, traditional yoga asana, creative imagery, breathing exercises, self-massage, and a compassionate mindset to help you feel a greater sense of ease and comfort in yourself. Sarah B. Yoga and Body Matter have a lot of other program offerings. These podcasts are just a taste of my teaching. Each week I teach a range of online classes, including a gentle yoga class, a level 2 class for more advanced students, and Feldenkrais classes with monthly themes, anatomy lessons, and Q&A sessions for more in-depth study. I have 2 new online series offerings for the fall. A Feldenkrais series titled Coming to Your Senses, an exploration of the spaces of the eyes, the mouth, jaw, ears, vocal and breathing apparatus. And my second course, Wakeful Body, the blending of yoga and Feldenkrais on Monday nights. As one student recently described Monday nights, that felt like I just gave myself a massage. So these fall classes will be a continuation of some fan favorite stretching sequences that incorporate bolsters and other props to enhance the poses. There is still plenty of time to join these courses live or via the course recordings. You can find more information about these offerings in the show notes. Okay, on to today's episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Sarah B. Yoga podcast. Today's class is going to have an anatomical focus. We're going to be working with poses that are good for people who have a posterior pelvic tilt. And if you don't have that, then this class might not be the best class for you. Some of the exercises will be fine, but some of the modifications that we're taking for it may not suit your body. So the first thing you might be asking is, how do I know if I have a posterior pelvic tilt? Those words might not mean anything to you. So first of all, a good way to describe what a posterior tilt in the pelvis is like this. So if you were to imagine that you have a very long monkey tail coming down from your tailbone, the tail would be consistently curled under and almost hiding between the legs. So there is a tucking action in the pelvis, which then flattens your lower back and takes out any kind of a natural and healthy curve in the lumbar spine. So this is common for people who sit quite a lot. Maybe you're sitting at the computer a lot and the lower back kind of rounds. You might also have just a very tight lower back and very tight hamstrings in this case. Another thing that happens is the shoulders tend to then hunch forward a little bit from the tugging on the spine that happens from the tilt in the pelvis. And if you're still unsure, you can always email me or ask me, or you could ask somebody else that you know who knows what these different positions of the pelvis are. If you were to sit down cross-legged on the floor, and if you have a really hard time sitting up very straight with the lower back, if you kind of round back and you feel like you are tipping back with the lower back and onto the back part of your sitting bones, then you most likely have a posterior tilt of the pelvis. And you might have it to a small degree or a larger degree. So if you're ready to practice, you can kind of skip ahead to where I start, but I'm just going to give a few more brief anatomical discussions about why we care about this, so that you can understand this if you're dealing with this kind of a posture. So the hip flexors, which are in the front of the body, and the hip extensors, which are at the back of the legs, are an important set of antagonistic muscles that play a very important role in spinal alignment. So these muscles help control the tilt of the pelvis, which forms the foundation for your spinal curves. In turn, these curves affect the position of other parts of the skeleton and the balance of the muscular actions. So the hip flexors in the front of the body and the hip extensors in the back of the body help control the tilt of the pelvis by rotating it over the hip joints. The hip extensors, the hamstrings, as we'll call them, help control the pelvis to tip back, as in this posterior action or posterior tilt, or to tuck. So the tucking of the tail under is what's happening in the posterior tilt. And the hamstrings and the glute muscles are two of the major muscles that anchor and pull down on the pelvis, and then thus get very tight and shorten and pull down on your pelvis. So this is why you'll experience a lot of hamstring focus in this class, is because our hamstrings are very tight with this posture. Let's begin on the floor, and I suggest that you have a strap or something that you can use like a strap. It doesn't have to be a yoga strap, it could be something else. A blanket or a towel that you can roll up will be very useful, and if you don't have that, if you're kind of on the go, you can just roll up part of your mat for what we'll need it for. And blocks are very useful for the lunges that we'll be doing. So we're going to begin on our back in a constructive rest position. So lying down on your mat, just have your knees bent with the soles of the feet on the floor. Soles of the feet can be about hips distance. And then bring your hands down to your lower belly and let your eyes close. Just take a moment to set an intention to let go of any kind of busyness that your day has already brought you, releasing any kind of judgment of the body as we're working with a specific posture, and this idea that maybe we can start to change that a little bit. So as we work to change habits, really try to move slowly, taking small steps, so that any sort of expectation doesn't lead to frustration. So with your eyes closed, just simply feel how the back of the body is making contact with the floor, and bringing specific attention to your spine. Notice what parts of your spine are touching the floor, and doing this without needing to move at all. And then noticing what parts of your spine are not touching the floor. And if you're working through this podcast many times, this might change a lot. So ideally we have a curve at the back of the neck where the spine lifts off the floor. And then you'll feel the upper back more grounded and touching the floor. And then as you get down to the lumbar spine, the lower back, that's the part that we're a little bit more concerned about right now in this focus. You're hoping that you also have a little bit of a curve there, that somebody could slip their hand underneath your lower back and the floor, and that would be easy. You wouldn't have to change anything. But in this case, if that's not the case, if your lower back is on the floor, then we're dealing with the posterior tilt of the pelvis, and that's what we're going to work to feel for some mobility back there. So just taking a few deep breaths here. Starting to let the breath really focus your attention. Allow your exhalation to be long and slow. We're just going to start with a small tip and tilt of the pelvis, so a small movement of the pelvis. So as you are breathing in, I'd like you to take your sitting bones forward and down so that the belly protrudes forward a little bit and the lower back comes off the floor. And then as you exhale, reverse that action and feel your tail gently curl up, so the lower back is pressing into the floor a little more. And again, as you breathe in, the tailbone anchors forward and down, the sitting bones reach forward, the belly protrudes forward, and the low back lifts. And as you exhale, reverse that action, the tail curls up. And so it's a small action, but you're starting to try to find some mobility through the pelvis. And the action that we take on the breath in with the belly protruding forward and the lower back lifting, that's the action that we're going to try to focus more on. Another way that you can think of this as we're continuing on is you can imagine that you have a marble between your navel and your pubic bone. And as you breathe in, you have to change the pelvis so that that marble rolls down towards your pubic bone. And then as you breathe out, you want the marble to roll back down towards your pelvis. So you curl the tail up. Good, and just taking that a few more times. So breathing in. Belly protrudes forward, lower back lifts, tailbone moves forward and down. Breathing out. Curl the tail up and feel the lower back press into the earth and the lower belly drop down towards the spine. Good, so that's to help you feel this tip and tilt of the pelvis. Okay, so you're going to now just grab a blanket or your towel and roll it up so it's not too thick, and you're going to place it underneath the lumbar spine, so underneath the lower back, so that the blanket is really giving you that lumbar curve that you maybe don't have very much of anymore. So we're training the back there. So taking the blanket underneath the low back, feet are on the floor, and then have your strap nearby. Take your right leg up and loop the strap over the arch of the right foot, keeping your right knee slightly bent. Now, if your tail is curled up, then you want to see if you can still keep the buttocks on the floor and sitting bones dropping down instead of rounding at the lower back. Gently pull down on the strap, keeping the right knee bent. Start to extend the left leg long all the way down to the floor. Make sure that your arms have a hold of the strap in a position where you can be very relaxed in the shoulders, the collarbones can be broad. And this might be enough for you with your knee slightly bent. You can try playing with extending your leg all the way, but if your tail starts to curl up, then I suggest you keep that small bend of the knee and try to maintain this more neutral place in the pelvis as you open up the hamstring. And this is going to be one of the very best exercises, best ways to lengthen the hamstrings while keeping a neutral spine. You can keep the eyes closed here. Good. Breathing in, feel the belly expand. Long, slow exhalations. Good. So in order to get into the outer part of the hip, into the IT band, you're going to grab the strap with just your left hand and just cross the leg over your body very slowly, a couple of inches. Beginning to feel the sensation move into the outer part of the hip and the outer hamstring and IT band area. Okay, keep lengthening and reaching out through both heels. Even if your right knee is still a little bent, continue to feel that energetic push out through the heels. Good. And then slowly come all the way back to center. Release the right foot down, bend your left knee. Make sure that the blanket is in a good position underneath the lower back. And extend your left leg up, loop the strap over the left foot. Keep your left knee a little bit bent at first, grabbing onto the strap with both hands. Take a deep breath in and slowly begin to extend your right leg long all the way to the floor. Being sure that the sitting bones, the buttocks, stay on the floor. So bend your left knee as much as you need to make sure that happens. And just begin your mindful breathing here. So becoming more mindful about our bodies, creating a deeper communication with the body. And just remembering that when we talk about this mindfulness and awareness, it's not something that needs to be really stern or a discipline that we're imposing on ourselves so that we become better or stand up taller or change the tip in our pelvis. So keeping a very compassionate approach towards your body, and the more and more that you practice, the more you'll get to know your body, and this mindfulness can be about loving all of those details, and the awareness will be just the natural thing that happens. So sensing the extension that you're feeling, the sensation through the back of the leg. And if you're able to keep the sitting bones, the hips, buttocks on the floor, you can start to lengthen the left leg a little bit more, feeling both heels reaching out away from your center. And then take the strap with just your left hand and allow the leg to cross a few inches over the body. It may only need to be a couple of inches until you start to feel the outer part of the hip start to talk to you. Good. Trying to keep the eyes and the face relaxed, relax your jaw. And slowly coming back to center, release your left leg to the floor, bend your right knee, and slip the blanket or the prop out from underneath your back. Just draw your knees all the way into the chest. Take a nice big hug of the knees in, grabbing both knees with respective hands. Widen the knees out away from one another. Circle the knees forward and bring the knees back together. And just take that circle a couple of times, letting your thigh muscles relax, so that you're just simply feeling the weight of your femur bone, your long thigh bone dropping down into the hip joint, imagining bowls of fluid there in the hip joint that the femur bone is able to work through. Noticing which directions might be harder to move through for the legs. Good. So from here, we're going to take an outer hip stretch. You're going to cross your right ankle over the left thigh. And then grab the hands back behind your left thigh. If that's a big stretch for you, you can use your strap. You'll put the strap around the back of the left thigh. And if you're needing to lift your head a lot, then place something underneath your head, a block, a pillow. Good. Flex the right toes back. Taking a deep breath in. And as you exhale, gently draw the legs a little closer towards you. And try to keep your right knee active, moving away from the right shoulder. And noticing where the sensation lies today, and if it brings any attention into your lower back area. The teeth can stay soft, the cheeks and the eyes relaxed. Good. Slowly place your left foot back to the floor, and you're going to stay with your right leg. Take the right leg into happy baby pose. So you'll grab onto the outside of the right foot. Again, you can use a strap for this. If your hamstrings are really tight, you're probably going to need that strap. And not feeling at all bad about using all of these props. They're really there to help you. So you're going to take the right leg, the right knee, so that it's on the outer part of the body, closer towards the armpit. The sole of the right foot's facing straight up, so that you feel a sensation through the back of the leg. As your hand is pulling down, the foot starts to push back up into it, so it becomes an isometric sensation. So your leg isn't actually going anywhere, but you're working it. Take a deep breath in here and then begin to extend your left leg long. If possible, extend it all the way down to the floor. If your left knee needs to stay bent, you can keep that left heel on the floor and just work with a slightly bent left knee. And continue to feel both legs reaching away from one another, the front of the pelvis open. You know, if your tail is curling up quite a lot and your lower back is pushing into the floor, you could try slipping that blanket underneath the lower back, or imagining what would happen if you were to tilt the tail forward and down so that the lower back doesn't have so much push into the floor. Good. Take one more breath in here, and then gently release the foot. Place the right foot to the floor, lifting your left leg, cross your left ankle over the right thigh. Grab your hands back behind your right thigh and bring the legs in for the beginning of this outer hip stretch. The left toes flex back. Place something underneath your head if you still need that. And when we're working on the back, it's a very therapeutic place for the spine. And you can play around with how much you're very, very still, or if you take really small movements, a rocking side to side. And you'll get to know what your body needs each day and how your body responds best. Good. A few more breaths here. Inhaling, being sure that the belly isn't too tense. We want to let the belly be soft enough that it can relax and respond to the inhale by expanding, and respond to the exhale by the navel falling towards the spine. Great. And then place your right foot to the floor. Take a hold of your left foot for happy baby pose. Grab onto the outer part of the foot. Taking your left knee towards the left armpit space, so that leg is rotated out slightly. Sole of the left foot faces up. Start to push the sole of the foot up into the strap or your hand, whatever you're using, and then begin to extend the right leg long out to the floor. Good. Collarbones stay broad. The front of the neck is nice and easy. Keep breathing. Feeling both knees working to extend away from one another, pulling in opposite directions. Seeing if you can imagine or feel that line of energy. Good. And then gently release that and just take both knees back into the chest. Take a couple more circles. Circle the knees out wide, forward, and back in together. Good. We're just going to take one short abdominal exercise. So you're going to keep the left knee in towards the chest. The right leg extends straight up. If it needs to be slightly bent because of that hamstring tightness, that's okay. And you should feel the lower back on the floor now. And in this exercise, we want the low back to stay on the floor. So nice and slowly, you're going to lower your right leg until it's about 1 inch off the floor. And as you do that, you're going to keep the lower back on the floor and the lower belly dropping down to support the spine. Extend out through the heel. Imagine somebody has a hold of your right heel and they're reaching it. They're trying to pull you forward. On your exhalation, lift the head and the shoulders. Bring the forehead towards the knee. Breathe in. You'll feel that you're making a hammock shape from your right heel up into your head. And extend your arms forward. Keep your left knee close to the left eye. Breathe in. Good. Breathe out. Take your right knee back in towards the chest. Lower your head down, grabbing your right knee with your hands. Extend your left leg straight up, or as straight as you can get it today. Inhale. Exhale, slowly lower the left leg down until it's about 1 inch off the floor. And then just hovering it there. Feeling the lower belly fall down towards the spine. And exhale, lift the head and the shoulders. Good. Pausing here and then testing, making sure that you don't actually need your arms. Good. Curling up from the strength of the belly. Breathe in. Good. Exhale, slowly release. Knees come into the chest. And you're going to roll yourself all the way over to your side and up to hands and knees. So that first 15 minutes or so would be a great break from your desk, and you could just stop right there and see how you feel. But for right now, we're going to go on. We're going to work towards down dog, so bring your hands to the floor right underneath the shoulders. And working with this same tilted tip of the pelvis on our hands and our knees. So as you exhale, you're going to come into a cat spine, and this one is going to be the easier of the two positions that we're going to take here. So you're going to drop the chin towards the chest and curl the tail down. Feel the lower belly lift. So feel how you're making a nice curve through the back. And then on inhalation, try to reverse that action. This one is going to be a little bit more difficult to feel. So the tailbone tilts up, your belly softens forward. And that's really the action we want to get at. Open through the chest, open through the shoulders. Feeling the sternum shoot forward like a laser beam between the arms. You can let the head drop back. So moving between these two positions, exhale around, you let the tail fall. Lift the navel. Drop the chin. And reverse the action. The tail lifts up. So you could imagine that you have a duck tail that's flipping back and up. The belly softens down. Chest moves forward. Exhale, just taking that a few times with your own breath. You might close your eyes and focus on the movement of the pelvis more than anything else. So we're really trying to understand that movement in the pelvis, and that's going to help free up the spine. Great. So the next time that you come to your cow spine, or that lifting of the tail and the sitting bones, you're going to stay there and then walk your hands forward. Your hips will stay right on top of your knees, so you don't want to move forward of the knees with your hips. And coming into a preparation for downward facing dog. So the hands are going to be about shoulder distance. Elbows stay lifted. The forehead reaches down to the floor if possible. Really feel the weight moving all the way into the edges of the fingers. Try to push into the floor with the edges of the fingers. And then notice if your back is rounding again, if it is in a angry cat
shape. So we want to try to keep the sitting bones moving up and back, the tail reaching back, so that you can lengthen out the lower back and the sides of the waist. The hips are reaching back away from the sides of the waist and the sides of the ribs. And as you breathe in, really feel the ribs expanding. See if you can let this be an opportunity for the ribs to soften a little bit. Keep pushing into the floor. A nice opening for the shoulders here. You want the chest to soften down to the earth. Good. Then on your exhalation, slowly round the back. Start to walk your hands back so they're right underneath your shoulders again. Take a few more rounds of cat and cow. So exhale, rounding the back. Drop the chin, drop the tail. Inhale, reverse the action. Tail lifts up like a duck tail that flips up, chest opens. And exhale, rounding. Good. Breathe in, tailbone flips up. And from here, we're going to tuck the toes under. Keep that lift of the tail. And then reach all the way back into downward facing dog, keeping your knees bent in your down dog. We're going to push the floor away with the hands. Great. So with this little bend of the knees, I'm going to have you lift your heels very high so you're on the tiptoes. And instead of pushing all the weight forward into your shoulders, make sure that you keep pushing the floor away with the hands so that you can really feel your sitting bones extend straight up and back. And that might give you a little bit more stretch through the shoulders as well. Now bend your knees even more and see if that helps you to feel this action of the tail reaching up and back. The head stays heavy. Good. Slowly begin to lower your heels a little closer to the floor without losing the reach of the tail. And once you feel like your back started to round again, you're going to stop dropping the heels. So we're going to practice downward facing dog throughout this whole class with a slight bend of the knees and without feeling bad that the heels aren't grounding. More importantly is the reach of the tail back, the lift of the sitting bones, so that we get a nice long stretch and lengthening action through the spine. Great, let's bring the knees down and come to child's pose. Rest from that for a little while. Just let your hips drop back. If this pose is difficult for you, you can take your knees a little bit wider. Okay, take a deep breath in. And exhale. Noticing any kind of shift in awareness through the back and the pelvis area. Good. And inhale, come back up to hands and knees. Okay, we're going to take one more shoulder opener to make down dog feel a little easier. So if you have a block, take the block up towards the top of the mat. Push the palms so they're straight into the block. The forearms will be parallel to one another. If you don't have a block, then just interlace your fingers. The forearms will be on the floor. And place your elbows so that they are no wider than your shoulders. Keeping the forearms on the floor, start to walk your knees back so that your forehead then drops to the floor again, or as best as it can, dropping to the floor. Good. The palms will push into the block or fingers interlaced. Energetically feel the elbows draw together. And keep the sitting bones reaching back. Good. And notice how this is the same sort of action as your downward facing dog. And it might feel easier to get the
sensation of the hips reaching back here because your knees are quite bent. Breathing in and breathing out. Good. If your shoulders are very open, feeling okay, you can push into the block and begin to bend the elbows so that the block lifts up towards the ceiling a couple of inches. Keep your chest softening to the floor. Good. And then when you're ready, slowly release that block down. Come out of this one carefully, walking your knees forward. Place the block aside. Bring your hands back to the earth. Take a breath in, moving into your cow spine, tailbone lifts, and exhale, we'll reach back to downward facing dog. We're going to move through those two poses, so come forward, knees drop, and inhale, head and tail lift, exhale back, downward facing dog. Good, breathing in, coming forward. Exhale, reaching back. Taking this with your own timing. Breathing in, tailbone lifts. Breathing out, pushing back. A few more times, you can let the eyes close. And starting to move with the pacing of your breath. Next time you come up into downward facing dog, pause there. Bend your knees a little bit more. Push the floor away so that you feel your tail moving back behind you. Yeah, take a long exhalation. You can exhale out through your mouth if you like. And then come all the way forward on your breath into high plank pose. Good. Take the crown of the head forward. Keep the collarbones broad, shoot the sternum forward, and feel the lower belly support and lift up towards the back. Good. Taking 2 more breath cycles here. Make sure the elbows don't lock. And then exhale, lower your knees down to the floor, lower all the way onto your belly. Untuck the toes, inhale to a small cobra. Keep the elbows hugging towards the body. Make sure that you don't look too far forward or reach too far forward with the chin. So the chin can be slightly dropped and the gaze moves right beyond the tip of the nose. Good. And then exhale, release the tip of the nose to the floor. And we're going to take this in a bit more of a dynamic sequence. So take a deep breath in. As you exhale, crown of the head moves forward, extend and start to lift. Inhale, lifting a little bit higher, extending a bit more. And exhale, slowly lower. Breathe in to relax. Exhale, lifting back up. Inhale, moving a little bit higher. And exhale, slowly lower. Breathe in here. Again, exhale, gently lifting. The collarbones lift away from the floor like they're looping backwards. Inhale, reach a little higher. And exhale, slowly lower. Breathing in to relax. You're going to extend the arms alongside the body now, palms facing down. Same idea. Exhale. Beginning to take the crown of the head forward, shoulders lift. Inhale, reaching a little higher. Fingertips can reach back towards the toes. Exhale.
Slowly lower tip of the nose towards the floor. And take a deep breath in. Again, like that last time. Exhale. Fingertips reach back, shoulders lift. Inhale. Let's pause here in this lifted position. Feel the upper arm bones sliding back towards your fingertips. Inner thighs extend towards your big toes. Make sure that the lower back isn't feeling compressed here. If it is, then don't lift quite so high. And continue to feel the reach of the crown of the head forward. Good. Then when you're ready, plant your hands right underneath the shoulders. Lift up to hands and knees. Tuck the toes under and reach back to downward facing dog. Great. So from downward facing dog, walk your hands back a couple of inches. Feeling the heels get a little closer to the floor. And then just continue with that, taking your hands farther back. Until your heels are all the way on the earth. And feel free to keep your knees quite bent here so that you can let your head drop, especially since we know that we're working with some tight hamstrings. We want to be sure that we don't stress the back and the hamstrings too much. You're going to allow the knees to be bent so that you're not rounding so much of the back, but instead you're trying to feel that same tip of the pelvis. So as you bend your knees and let the head drop, can you still feel the sitting bones rise? Great. Let's let the knees bend even more. If you need blocks here, feel free to place blocks underneath your hands. We're going to breathe into a halfway lift, so the crown of the head will move forward. The fingertips can come to the floor, to your shins, or to blocks. Open through the collarbones and really feel like you're sticking your bum back and that you have a little ducktail that is flipping up. Good, and then as you exhale, fold back forward. Keeping the knees bent. So again, we'll breathe in, extend the crown of the head forward, open through the chest. And exhale, fold forward. Take that one more time. Deep breath in, lengthen. And exhale, fold. This time we'll come all the way up to stand. Take the arms out and up. Lengthen the legs. Bring the palms overhead. Take the gaze up to the thumbs. And exhale, drop the hands down. Good. And then just walk up towards the top of the mat. Standing in Tadasana. So let's take the feet so they're hips distance today. Have your blocks up at the top of the mat as well. Let your eyes close. And just notice what it feels like to be standing now after all of that work and attention with the pelvis and the hamstrings. And see here if you can just, as you're standing, release any gripping in the hamstrings and the buttocks. This is going to allow your tailbone to move up and back slightly. Feel your inner upper thighs moving back to help release the hamstrings from pulling down on the sitting bones. Soften any gripping in your belly muscles and allow your breath to move more gently in the belly. So these actions and releases might help to reestablish a normal, healthy lumbar curve as you're standing. Okay, release any tension in the jaw. Feel the space right above you and let the crown of the head lift directly up into that space, bringing an awake and alert energy through the spine. And then gently open the gaze on your breath and reach the arms out and up. You can let the gaze lift up towards the thumbs. And exhale, fold forward. Let your knees bend a little bit. Feel the tail stick back. And fold all the way over the legs.
And breathing in, extend into your flat back. You can have your blocks underneath the hands. And as you exhale, step the right foot back into a lunge. Back leg stays straight here. Extend the right heel back. Inner right thigh reaches to the right heel. Feel your chest very open, like you're about to take off and shoot forward with the chest, with the sternum. Keep a deep 90-degree bend in your left knee, but feel your outer left hip start to slide back away from the left side ribs. And the side ribs are moving forward, sliding forward towards the armpit. Good. Take a little bit of weight out of the fingertips. Maybe test that and see if you can take all weight out of the fingertips. One more breath in here. And as you exhale, you're just going to step the right foot all the way forward. You can keep that deep bend in the knees and switch sides. Left leg reaches back. Nice and simple. Good. Setting up the pose. Feeling the inner left thigh slide back towards the heel. And reach back through the heel so you start to get a calf sensation. Finding a deep bend through the right knee. Make sure that your right heel is on the floor. We don't want the right knee to be forward of our right ankle in this position. The outer right hip will slide back, moving back away from the right side ribs, and the right side ribs are shooting forward. Good. Open through the chest. Continue breathing. One more full breath in. And exhale, step the left foot forward. Release the head over the legs. Keeping the knees soft. Inhale, extend through a halfway lift. Open through the shoulders. Feel the tail sticking back. And exhale, fold back forward. As you breathe in, reach the arms out and up. Take the arms all the way overhead. And exhale, hands to heart center. Okay, let's take the hands back behind us. If your shoulders are really tight, you're going to want to use a strap for this. Grabbing onto the strap. Otherwise, interlace your fingers. Everybody bend your elbows just a little bit, and then try to hug the elbows towards one another. Now feel if you're really pushing your ribs forward, so you want to keep the lower ribs in the front of the body somewhat quiet. Take a long exhalation, pushing the air out through the nose. Feel the lower belly draw back towards the spine. And then begin to extend the arms, reaching the shoulders back and down. Make sure that your head doesn't jut forward here. Feel the space right up above the crown of the head and lift up into it as your arms move back. I'm really thinking of this as like a standing back bend. Good. Try to keep your hamstrings relaxed, buttocks relaxed. Good. Gently release that. Inhale, sweep the arms out and up. Exhale, fold forward. Finding your blocks if you need them. Inhale, extend through the long spine, tail reaches back. And then step your right foot back into a lunge again. Okay, so this time we're going to move into the hamstrings again. So make sure that you have a nice long stance from left to right foot. Exhale, begin to extend your left leg. Push the big toe mount of the left foot straight into the floor. And don't feel that you need to straighten your left leg all the way. So once you start to feel that hamstring stretch, you can pause. We don't want this to tug the tail down too much. So as you push that front foot into the floor, try to move the outer left hip back and really feeling the tail stick back. Let's lift the toes of the front foot up. So just the toes. All 5 toes lift and spread. Inhale. Good. Exhale. Place the toes back down. Bend the left knee. And then extend your left leg or move it towards extension, towards a straight leg. One more time. Lift the toes. Feel the tail and outer left hip pull back. Nice, and then bend your left knee one more time, coming into your lunge. We're going to come to low lunge. The back knee drops to the floor. Taking a pillow or padding underneath that back knee. Untuck the toes. Good. In this case, you can start to move your hips a little bit farther forward. Make sure that your front heel stays grounded. As your hips move forward, the right thigh moves back. You'll start to feel that stretch through the front of the leg now. Bring your hands so that they're resting on your front knee. Open through the shoulders, soften the neck. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, let the lower belly draw back and up. And just start to move the chest forward a little bit, puffing your chest forward. Imagine you have a really big beach ball back behind you and you're trying to match the curve of the ball. As the chest moves forward, then the arms can begin to lift up and the head softens back. So your gaze might lift right in front of you or start to move up the wall, whatever you see, up towards the sky. The chest continues to move forward. The hips move forward and the right thigh is sliding back. Good. One more deep breath in. And then exhale, release your hands to the floor, extend your back leg, step all the way forward to the top of the mat. Good. Take a nice easy switch of the legs. Left foot steps back, finding your lunge. Use your blocks here if you need to. On your exhalation, begin to extend your right leg, moving it towards straight, but no need to get it to that full straight position. You're going to start to really notice how as you begin to lengthen your hamstrings, it's going to shift and pull on your pelvis in different ways. So once you feel that your pelvis starts to get stressed or the lower back gets stressed as you're stretching the hamstring, then you want to back off a little bit. So you want to have a very healthy, safe way of stretching the hamstrings. Okay, so just noticing the sensation through the right leg. Start to push the big toe mound of the right foot into the floor. Feel the outer right hip slide back. Tailbone moving back. And side ribs extend forward. Lift the toes of the front foot up. Lift and spread the toes. Breathe in. As you exhale, bend your right knee again. Plant the toes back to the floor, coming back forward into your lunge. And as you exhale, straighten the right leg or move it towards straight. Take your tail back. Good. Relax in the neck. Deep breathing, and then let your right knee bend back forward and release your back knee to the earth for a low lunge, untucking the toes. As the hips move forward, feel the inner left thigh slide back. And then you can bring your hands up to that front knee. Pausing here for a moment, starting to engage the lower belly. Feel the lower belly as if there's a little string right at the low belly, and it's pulling back, and then somebody starts to pull the string all the way up the front of the spine. The chest continues to move forward. Open the chest as the shoulders soften back and down. Imagine that big beach ball back behind you again as you're trying to match the curve of the beach ball, so you don't want to lean into your lower back too much. Keep opening through the front body. Take the arms up and let the gaze soften up. Deep breath in and exhale. Plant your hands to the floor. This time we're going to step all the way back to downward facing dog. So right foot steps back. Just take a moment, tread the feet out. Good. Planting the hands firmly. Take a small bend of your elbows. Look forward at the elbows. Imagine that you have one of your yoga blocks right there between the elbows, and then you're holding on to that block. So you're going to hug the elbows towards one another. And then without locking your elbows, move them a little bit more towards straight. They'll still have a secret mini bend in them. And then keep pushing the floor away with the hands and start to take the tail back. Your knees are still bent. Knees are bent.
head can relax now so that your upper arm bones are alongside your ears or in that close proximity. Good. One more breath in. And then begin to come forward into high plank. Okay, take the crown of the head forward. Feel the side ribs slide forward. Going to take a little bit more abdominal work here. Draw your right knee into your chest. Try to lift the right knee as high up towards the right armpit as you can. Breathe in. Push the floor away with the hands. Exhale. Inhale. Good. Exhale. Step the right foot back. Left knee comes in towards the chest. Keep pushing the floor away. Take the crown of the head forward. Breathe in. Breathe out. Nice. Breathe in. Step the left foot all the way back, then lower all the way onto your belly again. Inhale for small cobra. Exhale, slowly lower. Let's take the arms back behind the body. You can keep the arms long, hands apart. You can interlace the fingers or use your strap. We'll take full locust pose. Inhale. As you exhale, feel the lower belly pull away from the floor. Shoulders lift. Hands start to slide back towards the heels, extending the inner thighs towards your inner ankles. The legs can begin to extend back and up. Good. Keeping the breath very full. Good. And nice and slowly lower yourself down. Put your hands right underneath the shoulders. Lift up to hands and knees. Exhale, back downward facing dog. Good. Begin to walk your hands back to your feet again. Just grab your blanket. We're going to take a nice juicy shoulder opener before Shavasana. So finding a blanket or a towel, rolling it up so that it creates a nice bolster. And as you work on this one more frequently, you can make the bolster bigger and bigger every time so that you get a little bit more opening in the shoulder. But again, this is something that we want to ease ourselves into, so don't feel like you need to go overboard the first couple times you do it. So once you've rolled up that bolster, you're going to place the shoulders on the roller, and your head will be dropping back on the other side of the roller. So the back of the head falls to the floor. Okay, let your knees be bent, soles of the feet on the earth. And then bring your palms and your elbows together. The elbows are bent, right in front of the face. Okay, so you're going to keep your elbows together as best as you can and start to reach the fingertips to the floor back behind you. So your head is dropping back. Okay, keep the jaw relaxed. And then very slowly start to extend your arms, sliding your fingertips on the floor back behind you. Keep your elbows as close together as you can. The work of this pose is to try to keep the elbows hugging towards one another. And as you extend your arms long, the elbows have to separate, but you're guiding them back towards one another energetically. Good. With your hips heavy on the floor, feel your lower back lifting from the earth and breathing space and softness into the ribs. Feel the front of the body open. Good, and then gently let your elbows bend all the way out to the side. Release the hands from one another. Take your hands back behind the back of the head, and you're going to shift a little bit so that now the roller's underneath the upper back. let the weight of the head drop into the hands and the elbows widen. And the backs of the hands and the head may come to the floor. Elbows drop down towards the floor and the legs can lengthen. If this is really comfortable for you, you can let your head come all the way to the floor. Bring the arms out into a cactus shape. And we'll just be here for a little while, allowing the breath to slow down. And so we'll continue for the rest of class in this position. So you want to be sure that you are in a very comfortable place where you will be able to relax. This may mean that the bolster needs to be a little bit smaller, especially if you're having any kind of strain in your lower back or if the shoulders are not able to start to let go. You also may want to place lift a pillow or a block underneath the head. The legs can stay bent here, or the legs can lengthen out long. The arms can relax out to the side. Let the eyes close. And start to just notice the rhythm of your breath again, without any need to change the rhythm. Becoming very aware of the sensations that let you know that you're breathing, whatever that might be. Letting yourself remember the intention to release any busyness or any whirling chatter that was in the mind. Continuing to let that dissolve here. Feel the weight of the bones. The weight of the muscles beginning to soften as you breathe into them. The muscles relaxing off the bones and dropping, very weighted towards the floor. You can feel the space that's right behind your eyes. Let the eyes fall back into that area. The corners of the eyes relax. And feel your cheeks very heavy. The lips soften. The back teeth separate from one another, so the jaw can relax down away from your skull.
Continue resting. Notice where your attention is most present. Feel the weight of the body again, the back of the body falling, resting into the floor. In the front of the body, able to move freely with the inhalation, the expansion, and the exhalation, the falling. Just taking a few moments to pay particular attention to the rise and the fall of the belly. And then let your fingers and toes begin to move, moving the fingers through space, letting the rest of the joints begin to fold and crease as you roll to your right side. And you can just set the blanket, any props you're using aside. And slowly push yourself all the way up to a comfortable seat. Bring the palms together. May all beings find happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings never be parted from freedom's true joy. May all beings dwell in equanimity, free of attachment and aversion. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, fold forward. Namaste.
Are you enjoying this podcast? I've chosen to offer these audio recordings freely for over 15 years. I do this because research shows yoga, yoga nidra, and Feldenkrais to be valuable practices, those which I would like to share widely. Dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, has always been a pillar of my business. And more generally, dana is the inclination to give without expecting any form of repayment. It does, however, take a fair amount of time, effort, and cost to maintain and keep the podcast available. If you feel you've benefited from what you've learned from these classes, then please do consider making a contribution towards the maintenance and upkeep of the classes. It will help ensure that I can continue to offer the podcast classes freely and keep generating new material. Give what you can, give what feels good. If it's too little, it won't feel good. If it's too much, it won't feel good. Links to support the show monetarily can be found in the show notes. And other ways to give include sharing the podcast with others, leaving a 5-star rating and review, or just sending me an email with how the classes have affected you. Thanks so much.